25 years ago when the players' salaries were set, it made a lot of sense to a lot of people because it was an unproven entity. It was an unproven product. So they had the backing of the product in the respect of the NBA, the product of the brand.
Yeah.
But, was this going to be successful? Well, 25 years on, it's showing that it is. It is successful. It has a fan base.
Absolutely.
And it's commercially viable. I had no idea until just recently that league salaries haven't increased at the same level of even inflation in 25 years.
Yeah.
That's just madness.
I know.
Equally, I kind of go, I know it's fantastic when you get the male advocates, and I can't speak more highly of all male advocates for promoting and propping up and recognising women's sport. But I'd love to say LeBron and those guys just shave like 0.0001% off your salary.
I was literally about to say that.
And see what that could potentially do.
Makes me wanna say,
good to have you.
Good to be here, finally.
Yeah, I know. Hey, yo, what's up? Welcome back to the Webway. Got a guest on today. It's taken a while to get on, both myself, to blame, and also you.
Yeah, sorry,
but yeah, I've been really excited to get you on. I was at one of my friends' fundraisers, and Megan was up speaking in front of everyone. And at the end, I sort of went up to her and said, I'd love to share your journey with a few of our followers and stuff. So before we get into that, thank you for coming on. And for people that don't know who you are, do you want to say who you are and what you do?
Yeah, hey, thanks, Joe. And yeah, sorry it's taken a bit of time back and forth, and we finally got here. And I am late, so apologies for being late.
Right.
Once an athlete, always an athlete. If you're 5 minutes late, you're 5 minutes early, you're on time.
Yeah, and if you're on time, you're late.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. Thank you. It's been a wee while since I sort of had to run that through. But it's actually quite a good story. Why I'm late is because I'm just booking MIQ space for me to go over to the States. So I've been invited back to to celebrate the 25-year anniversary or 25th season of the WNBA.
Congratulations.
So my former team, the Utah Stars, which is now the Las Vegas Aces,
yes,
have reached out to the original team, the original roster, and said, on us, flights, accommodation, come in, spend a weekend in Vegas and come to a game. Now, I don't know if they know I'm from New Zealand. So
true. And you're far
and the
out.
flights are ridiculous
Are
right
they?
now. Unbelievably ridiculous. So what I've done is gone, well, there's a few things that need to happen. I need to book an MIQ spot, know that there's a flight that can get me back, and then fit in and around a game time. So I've kind of worked backwards, got my MIQ, booked a flight. Hopefully I'll get it refunded by them.
Oh, my God. But that's a massive opportunity to get over there. I mean, that's crazy. Yeah. So I guess we can go all the way back. So for people...
it's going way back.
A wee way back. For people that I guess wouldn't know who you are... Yes. Do you want to sort of say a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Yeah. Well, it will be going a wee way back because I'm 46 this year. I don't mind throwing it out there because...
Don't look it.
When you cheers, thank you. Someone said I looked like I was 33 the other day.
Oh, you'd take that, wouldn't you?
I'd take that. I'd take that. Don't know how true it is, but they just probably wanted something. But yeah, no, so I'm old, but I grew up in Whanganui, so I'm a Whanganui girl.
Nice.
And I did the normal sort of netball thing growing up and then made a switch to basketball when I started high school. And there's a couple of different reasons why. My brother will kill me if I don't say it was influenced by him. So I'll say my bro. But equally, I had some cousins who were real good in that sort of heyday of the Rhineck League basketball back in the day.
Interesting.
So the Kenny McFadden era and Kerry Whanganui and the Brown brothers, all those boys played with my cousins who were up in Waitakere. Oh. And so they were Tipa and Clint and Glenn and Tony Compain. They were real good. So they were an influence as well. Stopped playing netball, started playing basketball, got to the States. Long story short, had a really good high school team, got recruited, did the college thing, which was still quite early in those days.
Yeah.
So we're still talking, early 90s.
Yeah. Did you go to the States and play high school, or were you high? Oh, true.
Yeah.
Oh, so you went quite early because usually... I guess nowadays
you go through high school first, yeah. So back in that day, it was it's actually a Wellington family, the Thompsons. So Ronnie
Not Mike-
Thompson and
Michael, no?
they might be related, but they're like basketball royalty here
Okay.
in Wellington. So their son was over in the States, and he was sort of bringing over women to play for the high school team.
Awesome.
Yeah, so I was the third Kiwi to sort of go over on that pathway, and it was only going to be 1 year, play high school and get back and finish school C and all that good stuff. And 1 year turned into 6.
Shit.
2 in high school, 4 in college. So got a full ride to St. Joseph's University, and from there sort of kicked off that basketball trajectory.
That's crazy. So when you left Whanganui, what was your thoughts going over there? Were you sort of like, like, I mean, nothing against Whanganui, but it's not even the biggest city in New Zealand. You know what I mean? It's quite a small city, and going from there to the United States of America is a massive change.
Well, and you got to remember the time. It was the early 90s. You know, our exposure to anything American was aspirational. You know, it was the movies, it was sport. You know, the NBA was just so unachievable and amazing and brilliant. And I see your Jordan poster up on the wall. I mean, we grew up with, even he was kind of new for us. We were growing up with the Magic Johnson era and Larry Bird era and Dominic Wilkins. And we would, stay up late. I think it was a Thursday night. There used to be a feature game a week.
Yeah.
The way we engaged with it, we would go to the bookstores, like Whitcoulls and things, and grab the magazines and look through Slam magazine and Sports Illustrated and stuff. And that's how we got our basketball intel. It was crazy.
That's crazy.
So the chance to then leave Whanganui, which I think at that time was a population of maybe 20,000, and go to the US to play basketball was just unbelievable. And I left about a week after my 16th birthday. So I was pretty young, but I was stoked because I didn't have to do school C.
That is so funny. I mean, I'm just picturing myself as just in 16 going over to the States by myself without my family. I would be absolutely shit scared.
Yeah.
So kudos. I guess you must have seen it as an opportunity to do something else though, right? Because I mean, Whanganui, I'm sure there's opportunity there, but going over there, there's so much opportunity, right?
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and I mean, I knew I was pretty good at basketball, but I had no idea, if I was any good.
Yeah.
And equally, you can imagine I was a centre, power forward, wasn't allowed to dribble outside the key, wasn't allowed to shoot the ball face on, all that good stuff. I get to the States and I'm one of the smallest ones on the team.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, you go from 4'5" to 1'2".
That's crazy.
So it was a complete change of the way I needed to play the game. Good thing I was athletic, so I could keep up that way, but I had to basically retrain myself into becoming a shooting guard.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And I mean, people that aren't basketball players. Say if you're a rugby, it's like me going from a prop to a first five. It's like it doesn't. You don't usually do that.
No, front court, back court.
Yeah. So be able to adapt is crazy. So you got over to high school over there. When do you sort of get the call up from St. Joseph's saying, oh, here's a full ride, you're amazing? When does that happen?
So I was a junior in high school when I got over there, and we had a pretty good team. So we went to state finals, and as we started getting through the season and playing more and more playoff basketball, the letters started coming through from colleges, and initially they're just, dear insert name here, blah blah blah. We've seen you, we're interested. Are you interested in our school? And then they just started really flowing in. I came back to New Zealand after the season finished, so I was back home, and all these letters kept coming. And it
must have been a good feeling.
It was because it was really crazy. But I said to Mum and Dad, who were incredibly supportive of me going over, but it was a year.
Yeah.
And equally, it's still expensive. And back in those days, I think the flights cost about, $5-6 grand, which even back then's heaps. So, the idea of having to then go back and then know that it was going to be at least 5 more years of school. So 1 more year of high school and then 4 more years of college. But it was really surreal. And it was one of those ones where like, okay, well, I could come back home, finish school here, and then try my luck, but I've got to strike now. And those opportunities weren't that common back then.
Yes.
So I thought, well, I've got an in now. I've got a really good coach in high school that's pushing me in the right direction. Let's just have a crack. So I decided to go back to my to senior year and what do they call it? Announce early. So commit early.
Yes.
Yeah. So I did a few official visits and committed early. To
how are they? You hear some things about these visits, eh? Like,
yeah.
how am I going to say this in a nice way? So, a few of my mates, name drop, Jalen Brown, he played with me when I was in Vegas, and he was getting like every D1 school, and like he said he went to some visits and they were just like, here's this, here's that, here's a car, here's this, and then you can't say yes to anything, but it's just they will do anything to get you to the school way. So how was the visits for you?
Yeah, probably a little bit different in that era, but also for the women's game versus the men's game is not as commercially viable in respect of, it's not as big of a business then. It certainly is now.
Absolutely.
So it was more about showcasing the school and the aspects of the school, both academically, but also the social side of the school.
That's cool.
So I went on official visits to Syracuse, to Boston University, and St. Joe's, and then another little one in New Jersey somewhere. And it was probably down to Syracuse. I just could not wrap my head around going to a university that was bigger than Whanganui. And
people that don't know, Syracuse is bloody huge. Like, it's ridiculous.
So and it's also in the middle of nowhere.
It's bigger than Whanganui.
All these campuses that we went to, Kansas and St. Bonaventure and Iowa State and all these amazing big schools, but they're in cornfields or they're in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
I really wanted to go to a school that was in the middle of the city. So for me, it was down to Boston University and St. Joe's, and I liked Philadelphia better.
Yeah.
Boston would have been fun, and the program was better at St. Joe's. So, and again, it was one of those ones where I was lucky enough to have a good sense and a good coach who was mentoring me along that way of making sure I picked the right school, because I was getting recruited by some big schools, but equally, when would have I played? What were my opportunities to develop as a player?
For sure.
Versus going to a mid-range school where I knew that I could develop and be a key player immediately and soon.
That's the whole Ty Wynyard thing. Remember, he went. He went to Kentucky,
number one in the nation.
Exactly, and I mean, kudos to him. But personally, I think he should have gone somewhere else, because he's an absolute baller, And if he went to something like St. Joseph's or something a little bit smaller, and all eyes are on him. I mean, I don't think he'd be back playing in New Zealand now, to be honest.
That's right. I mean, I was lucky enough. Again, I went to ended up being a good program. I say to the young players now, and when they ask, do you have any advice? It's like, sometimes it just does come down to luck.
Yeah.
Yeah, luck of the timing, luck of how you get on with the coach, luck of the teammates that are around you, luck of the system that you're playing within, if it suits you. Sometimes it is just down to that, and sometimes you don't get lucky, and sometimes you do. So, and I got really lucky. So we went to the NCAA tournament 3 out of 4 years.
What?
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Yeah, so we played.
That's huge.
And our coach was always big on playing big competition in the outer conference schedule. So I've played at Duke, North Carolina, Georgia Tech, Florida State, Kansas, Connecticut, Tennessee. It's insane, and that in terms of women's basketball is royalty.
Absolutely.
Playing against Pat Summitt in Tennessee, against Shamika Holdsclaw and Tamika Catchings.
That's crazy.
Yeah, all those girls that may or may not have dunked on us.
Oh, true. So going to St. Joe's, what was one of your highlights from going to college, other than obviously basketball would have been amazing? What else was a highlight? Yeah,
I think I definitely enjoyed the smaller school. So we were only about 3,500. So I always rate it.
A quarter of Whanganui.
Quarter of Whanganui, exactly. You could kind of know your way around. My brother came to visit for 3 weeks and ended up coaching the rugby team.
Did he? You're a Kiwi.
Yeah, exactly. Walking by, had a look, had a chat. You're a Kiwi, you must know what you're doing. Come coach us for 3 weeks. So it was that kind of environment, but it was, you had that small town feel. You didn't have to join a sorority to get a group of friends. Your group of friends were people that you could meet in class, because you were going to see them again. They weren't like halls full of 300, 400 students. Yeah. So, but in terms of that experience, I think a lot of it does centre around the basketball, because your teammates do become your family, and especially me being away from home. Back in those days, there was no World Wide Web, I think you call it.
Is that what you call it?
The WWW?
Yeah, I think I've heard of it.
Yeah, there was no WWW. And it actually came in my senior year, right at the end, so we couldn't even use it to cheat on
the WWW?
Yeah, the WWW. We used to call it WWW. And so, it was pretty analogue days of old, I used to call home once a month because it was expensive.
Yep.
And Mum used to write to me once a week on a Sunday. Do you remember those old aerograms, like the blue envelopes that you probably don't?
No, I do remember.
You do?
I do, yeah.
Because you could write on this side, and then you could flip it up and you could
bang.
write.
Yeah, I remember.
So every week for however long I was there, Mum wrote to me on a Sunday night in those aerograms. Nice. Yeah, I never wrote back though. But I called once a month.
Sorry, Mum.
I called once a month.
You're busy.
Yeah. I used to get a care package every couple of months with Vegemite and what else was in there? Like vanilla wine biscuits. And
yum.
Stuff like that. Yeah.
The stuff. Yeah. The most important stuff, right?
Jet planes. Yep.
Oh, cool. So after St. Joseph's, what was the process like? Obviously nowadays, some people go to university being like, I'm going to be one and done, try to go NBA. I'm guessing it was different in your situation. Yeah. I guess the more you played, the more you got better, and the more you thought, oh shit, I can actually potentially get there. What point did it get to when you were like, you know what, that's actually not a goal that's too far off now?
Well, it was the turning point for me was I came home. So I only came home once during my 4 years. Okay. And that was in between sophomore and junior year.
Which is second and third, right?
Second and third, yeah. And just by chance, we were, what was that? It must have been 95. So we were playing an Olympic qualifying game tournament against Australia for the 1996.
Olympics.
It would have been. Yep. So Atlanta.
Yeah.
So that was the first time I represented New Zealand. So I came home, they were having trials, made the team, went to Aussie, got smashed, came home, but played for New Zealand. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And at the same time, Australia had just won the bid to host the 2000 Olympic Games in Sydney. Yeah. And that changed everything because then we knew, and we were together, which was quite good because in those days, the communication, once you kind of left, you left and you came home. It's like, oh, you again. That's right. Yeah. You're all right. You can come with us.
Yeah.
There wasn't so much connectivity as there is now, and sort of understanding and following where people are. So it was good timing in that respect. But equally, what that meant was Australia automatically qualified for the Sydney Olympic Games as host nation. In those days, the FIBA qualifications had Oceania as a separate continent.
Yes.
So we had one spot, and there was only two teams competing for it. So we were always competing against Australia.
Yeah.
And Australia being number 1 or 2 in the world, we were never going to be competing with them to actually take that spot. So we've actually got much better qualification opportunities being wrapped up into the wider Asia.
For sure.
But equally, that from a timing perspective, Sydney worked out so well for us.
Yeah.
So in 1995, whereas probably before that, I was just going on about my business. I was going to play college, and then likely, don't know. Yeah. I may have ended up staying over there. I had the American boyfriend by then. He was a black guy. I was going to have really cute little kids, and that's about as far as I could see.
Yeah.
And that Australia winning the bid changed the course of my life, really, because it said, okay, we're in 1995. We've got 5 years until the Olympic Games. So what do I need to do in that 5-year period to be in the best considered shape to make the team and then to compete? So the first few years are easy. That was taken care of with college.
Yes.
So 95, 96, 96, 97, my junior and senior year, taken care of. And then after that, it was like, well, what are your opportunities after that? Well, it's professional in Europe. Yeah. And that was it.
Yes.
And then the second big moment was in 1996. The NBA confirmed that they were going to initiate a league underneath the parent brand of the NBA. Yeah. And start the WNBA.
That is
so
awesome.
They called on eight of the men's franchise teams. Who wants to take a women's team? And those 8 teams were confirmed. And then we had I knew before I started my senior year that the WNBA was a possibility. Yeah. But equally, an absolute pipe dream. There's 8 teams.
For sure.
12 rostered spots, and all the returning, not just the talent that was in college,
Europe.
All the returning Americans in Europe and all the best Europeans in the world coming over.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
The timing for you has been impeccable though, right? If you think about it, Sydney, amazing, and now this WNBA. So in your senior year, that's obviously what you're gunning for?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were all gunning for it, but how realistic
Exactly.
we thought it would be.
Yeah.
So, we just did the best we could. We had a great senior year. Our team, it was the best year that we had as a group together.
Yeah.
So that was good timing. I think I ended up shooting the lights out that year. I think I was about, and that's what I got picked up in the NBA as a specialist.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't my physique, clearly. Because I had, like, the girls my size had about 20 pounds on me of pure muscle. I was wafy. I think I weighed in at about 62 kgs at that stage, which is not what I'm weighing right now. 25 years on and one child. So I was tiny. And relative, still 5'10".
Yeah.
But strength wise, just couldn't compete. But I could shoot the lights out. So my senior year, I shot. I think I shot about 46% from the field, and was taking between 5 and 8 threes a game.
Shit.
So I was actually jacking them up.
Absolutely. So they just took you as a specialist 3-point shooter.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So talk me through the process from finishing your senior year, then getting drafted as the first New Zealander in the WNBA, but also you were before Sean Marks, weren't you?
A year before Sean.
Exactly. So bad luck, Sean.
He loves me bringing it up, by the way.
But do you know what pisses me off big time is that no one's talking about it.
Yeah,
seriously.
That's okay. I mean,
it's not though.
No, but it is now. It's interesting because I've talked about it more now in the last probably 12 months or so than back then. And I was at this Women in Sport lunch the other day, and Jacinda Ardern was sitting there, and the Deputy Prime Minister was also sitting there. And when I said that, the room erupted. It was like, oh, yeah, you were the first New Zealander. I was like, taking by that reaction, nobody knew that.
That's crazy though, right? It's annoying.
But it's people are starting to pay attention now. And ironically, the thing is, I think when the next female player to make the WNBA happens, and it will be very soon, it'll probably again be a trigger to say, oh, well, if you're not the first, who was? And you're going to go back 25 years. Like, how is that even? How did that even happen? Yeah, so it didn't really make a blip, really.
Yeah.
And great that Sean came along the following year, and I had to learn, and I have learnt as you get older and you kind of get over yourself a little bit. I'm more proud of what I did in that year than I was then, because it was a year. I was a specialist. I didn't get. I trialled the next year in Detroit and missed out, and that was me done. Whereas Sean has gone on to win championships as a player, as a coach, hopefully now as a GM, would be amazing. So it was always that comparison thing. Now I'm going, well, even it's still pretty, it's a pretty good achievement.
Absolutely. No, you should have. When I found out that you were, because as I said at the start of the podcast, Megan, she spoke at my friend Matt Hartley's X-Men, the rugby team down in Wellington, and you're the guest speaker. And as soon as I found out, did a bit of Google searching, and I was like, what the fuck? Like, I've been in basketball my whole life. As I say, Steve Adams was in my team, and I've been in basketball since I was 5 years old, and not even knowing your name is just like blows my mind. And I want to bloody kick myself in the head because I should know your name, you know? No. And when I heard your journey and your story, I was just like, this needs to be told. And I hope you get the recognition. I hope you get the recognition you deserve, because you should ask my partner, Aida. When you were speaking, I was looking at us like, what the fuck? Like, I was like, what is happening now, you know? So anyway, so that's sweet. That's my little rant.
But the cool thing is that that I know that Sean and Steve are actually really big advocates. Yeah, and whenever they do have an opportunity, they mention. So Steve was on a podcast not long ago with JJ Redick. He's
I listened to it. Great podcast.
He about started to go, well, there's only been, and then went, oh, actually. So, that's cool.
Yeah, that is.
That he doesn't have to do that. And to have that kind of presence of mind to acknowledge that coming from a player like Steve, and achieving what he's achieved is, that made me feel pretty special.
Yeah. No, he's good like that, isn't he?
Yeah,
no, he
totally is. Yeah, no, he's an awesome ambassador for New Zealand.
Yeah. So going from as I was saying, because I really want to understand the draft process. So how did that all work? Coming out of senior year.
So the first year the WNBA, as I said, they took 12 players on the roster, and the first 10 spots on each team were draft spots.
Yes.
So they went through the draft and they had, so there was that 8 times 10, 80 players. And that was your Cheryl Swoops's, or Lisa Leslie's number one, Rebecca Lobo number 2, Cynthia Cooper, Cheryl Swoops. It was ridiculous, the talent. Dawn Staley was in the league then.
Did Lisa Leslie go number 1?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
LA Sparks.
Yep. And Rebecca Lobo went 2, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Cynthia Cooper, though, was the MVP for the next 4 years.
Yeah.
She was like, who's this? Coming back from Russia?
Yeah.
And she was next level.
Unbelievable.
Tina Thompson was another one.
Shit.
So, it was just sort of that era of incredible.
Lisa Leslie, just
basketball
for
talent.
people that don't know, is, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, the first ever female to dunk in a WNBA game.
Yep.
So she's, a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's a pretty big baller.
Yeah.
Playing against that talent, just be like playing against I remember when Steve came home and said he was scrimmaging with Russell Westbrook, like,
I know. It's like, sorry?
Yeah.
You were scrimmaging with me last year. You were setting screens for me, and now you're setting screens for
So you helped him get ready.
Yeah, that's my claim to fame. Yeah.
So those first 10 spots were drafted and locked in, and then the last 2 spots on each roster were left open for trials.
Oh, yeah, cool.
So that was anyone, any senior coming out of college, and then any international player that was eligible to come over and trial. So each of those cities held open trials, and there was anywhere from sort of maybe 200, 300 to, I think, in LA, and I went to the New York trial too, there was about 600.
Shit.
And it was basically...
So what are the odds on that? Less than 1%.
Exactly. So I was targeting to go to North Carolina, to Charlotte and New York. And then I got a call up from the assistant coach in Utah to say, make a trip up to Utah. Like, really? Because it was sort of on your own dollar. Like, is it worth my while? And he said, yeah. So I wouldn't have gone to Utah if I hadn't have got the nod from the assistant coach. So, and for exactly that reason, he'd seen me in college, and they needed a shooter, a specialist, so to fill the roster. So I went out there, and Tanya Tupu was there.
Oh yeah,
she was at trials with me. So she was she'd just graduated from University of Hawaii.
Oh yeah.
So she came out as well, and she played really, really well. The two of us out of about 350 got the nod.
That is unbelievable. Congratulations.
So I left straight from Utah to, and I don't know if you've ever been to Utah, the altitude's ridiculous.
Oh no, I haven't.
So come from sea level to play at altitude, it was like someone was standing on your chest. And I'm asthmatic anyway, so I didn't think I'd done very well at all. So I wasn't feeling very confident. Flew straight into New York, and then had 1 day as the trials in New York, and it got cut down to, I think, about 20, and I made the cut. But it was graduation day, and my mum and dad and my brothers had just flown from New Zealand. So landed in Philly while I was still in Utah. We met in New York, and graduation was the next day. And I ended up saying to the coaches, look, can you just be completely straight with me? Have I got a shot? Because if I don't...
I want to go to graduation.
This is my family have supported me for 6 years now. They don't want to see me not get a spot here because I just need to fill numbers, or rather than graduate. And they said go to graduation. So I said thank you, I appreciate that.
Oh, they said that.
Yeah, and then that night I got a call from Utah to say I'd made the team.
Oh, fuck! That must have been. What was it like getting that call?
Yeah, I remember I was at my boyfriend's grandmother's house, because that's where my mum and dad were staying.
Yeah.
And the phone was in the sort of around the corner of the kitchen, and it was just it was pretty surreal. Yeah.
Oh my god, that is unbelievable.
Yeah. So I had to pack up, and 2 days later was on a flight back to Utah.
Crazy. So you were there for a year? How was...
No, so the season was during the summer.
Oh, yeah.
So it was that, I think it was about 4 months all up.
And how was that?
4 months in Utah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good time.
We'll leave it there. Yeah. Well, what was cool about it was when we got out there, it was the finals, playoffs, and it was it was that 1997
Stockton?
Season. Yeah, 1996-97 finals series against Chicago and Utah.
Oh my god.
Where it went back to the Bulls and they won it over there, but they won that critical game.
Flu game?
The flu game, yeah. Or the food poisoning game, as we found out in the
Yeah.
last
Oh
dance.
yeah, true.
Yeah, didn't know that.
You think you would have spoke up?
I thought he would have, yeah. I've never heard that theory before. But I mean, this is total name dropping, but we were at the game because we got presented at halftime.
I condone name dropping, by the way. I love it. Just you can name drop anyone you like.
I'll clarify. Michael Jordan has no idea who I am, but we have run cross paths a few times. But we got announced at halftime of that game, and so we had courtside seats and everything, which was just pretty buzzy.
For the flu game.
Yeah, for the flu game.
Sorry,
yeah,
food poisoning game.
Food poisoning game. So I've been to Sixers games, a lot of Sixers games before, but had never been that close.
Yeah.
And so watched game finally. Jordan went nuts, and then we left, and we had got our access to the car park, like the players car park was where we parked. So we had to go back a house to get out of the stadium. And I was walking around the concourse as Jordan was coming either in or out of media after the game, and he was being held up by two of his people.
Oh
he was
God.
that ill. And you kind of go, how much is you just putting it on? Are you faking?
Yeah.
Or, how sick are you? But when you see someone up close like that and they are, just, he was ashen and just had nothing in the tank. And it just dropped 45 to win the game.
I just don't, I don't even understand how that works. Like, everyone knows what it's like, flu, whatever it is, but feeling like that and then going out and playing and scoring 45, it's just mind-blowing, eh?
Yeah.
And you were there courtside.
Yeah.
What's up, MJ? How you going?
Yeah. Hey, mate.
Shit. So obviously your experiences in the WNBA was amazing. And then after there, did you go to Europe?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
I actually listened quite well,
Yeah. No, I did. So I went, so I played the season, and then I had an interim season because I didn't take up a contract to go to Europe right away. I don't know why, actually. I'm just trying to work out why I didn't. I think I wanted to go home for a bit because I hadn't been home for a while. I also got in a little bit of trouble with US immigration around that same time.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Because as I realised, when you're under a student visa, you can come and go, and you get pretty confident of your status. As soon as you're not a student. Well, my visa was tied to being employed by the NBA.
Yes.
And as soon as the NBA season finished, I wasn't an employee anymore, and I didn't have any rights to be in the States. Oh. Now, I went over to Europe to play in a sort of a summer tournament with my college team.
Yes.
And I was getting a few offers over there, and went to get back on the plane to come back to the States, and they said, you don't have a visa, you can't come back. So I ended up getting a bit caught. And
so how did you get home?
I had to go to the consulate in Frankfurt and get a temporary visa, and then got let in on a visa waiver, but I had to leave the country within 3 months at that normal visa waiver thing. But I didn't want to go, and so I ended up going to Canada and back to cross the border. So it works.
Yes.
But only a few times.
Yeah. Only a few times.
On my third attempt...
they were like...
Yeah, and on my third attempt was me. So I'd gone home and come back, and then I was working at George Mason University randomly, just to make a little bit of money and train pretty much. And then I was trialing for Detroit, and I knew, so my temporary visa was running out, but I was just going to go, oh look, Detroit's right across the lake from Canada. I'll trial, and then I'll just nip over and get another 3 months, and by then I'll know whether I've made the team or not, and I can sort it out from there. So I did that. Went to the trial. I'd blown out my quad, so I was pretty much trialing on one leg.
Oh shit!
And I got down. Like I think I may have made it if I wasn't injured, but you never know.
Yeah.
But I did all right. I did all right, but I didn't make the team. So I crossed the border and went to come back, and they were like, nah.
Oh,
they looked at all the stamps.
Yeah.
No. And so they didn't let me back in. So just basically reject you. So you have to go to the consulate, and so I had to drive 6 hours to Toronto, spend a week there trying to get a visa to get into the US, and they pretty much gave me 7 days to get my shit and get out.
Oh my God.
And then you're on a hit list for about 3 years.
Shit.
Yeah, and from there, that's when I went and did the Europe thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Where else did you play in Europe?
I played in Würzburg. So my first contract was in Würzburg, and that's where Dirk Nowitzki's from.
Oh, true.
So he got drafted in the same year that I played in Würzburg, and it was the lockout year. So he would have, if it was a normal year, he wouldn't have been there. But because it was a lockout, he was still there for the first sort of 2-3 months. So, but also all his mates are on the men's team, and his sister was on the women's team. So, his parents were kind of like the team managers and that.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, so we got really close with
Real
his
fan
family.
vibe. That's
yeah,
awesome.
Yeah. So, and I used to, because I was an import, I could just train whenever. I used to do a little bit of shooting training with him and his guy.
Shit.
And his guy was pretty legendary in Germany. Yeah. It's kind of like, initially the Kenny McFadden to Steve. Yeah, just the dude that's up at 6 o'clock in the morning rebounding for you and shooting for you. Played in Würzburg, and then the following year played in Finland. That was interesting.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
How does it compare? Sorry, how was it interesting, firstly?
Cold.
Freezing.
Snowy. Real snowy.
Colder than Whanganui?
About the same size though.
Oh, actually?
Yeah.
So how does it compare, playing in the WNBA to, or even not even playing, just like sort of the training and the life of being a WNBA player to playing in the European League? What's the biggest differences you think?
The biggest difference for me was the coach, the quality of the coaching, and I actually say that without the NBA experience, because she probably won't be listening, but our coach was terrible in the NBA.
Yeah.
So it was just a really bad coaching experience.
And going back to what you said at the start, I guess it makes, luck obviously, but if you have a good coach and a good system.
Yeah. Oh, my aspiration was to be the bench player, number 12 on the best team.
Yeah, just
Because
come on, hit some threes.
Totally,
Yeah.
and the crowd loves you.
For sure.
You win, you get a few minutes, you're not a threat to anyone.
For sure.
You're like the game time player.
Yeah.
You're Sean
A
Marks.
few high fives, bang.
Yeah, you're Sean Marks.
For
Get
sure.
a ring.
Yeah, no, honestly, but that's,
Teams recruited him because they knew he was going to do what he needed to do.
people laugh at people like that, but they make such a big fucking impact
Yeah.
on the team. It's unbelievable.
You
Because
asked
I've been in
Tim
that position as well.
Yeah, ask Tim Duncan who the best player is that he's ever played against as for a trainer, like in training. And
Yeah.
it's Sean.
It's crazy.
Yeah, and he got known for it, so he got bounced around.
Who was I'm trying to think? Someone who came with LeBron. Anyway, LeBron would, when he used to go, he used to always bring someone with him. Like, you can sign me, but you got to sign him too.
Totally.
Similar shit with that.
Yeah. And then you're not that person that's like a bit of a threat.
Yeah.
So you're not pissing anyone off.
Yes.
And then the crowd love you because you come on like,
And you hit a few threes.
Oh,
yeah. You hit yeah. The last 2
But
minutes.
I was the worst player on the worst team.
Oh shit.
So you're right. It was just that luck thing. If it had been a different outcome, different situation, I might have gotten a few more years out of it. But yeah, it's okay.
So you think? Oh, sorry. Go back to the question. What's the biggest
coaching.
differences? Yeah. What do you reckon?
Yeah. I haven't had better coaching than I did in college.
Yeah.
Coming back to that luck thing, coach's style, my ability just really gelled.
Yeah.
And I bought into the system.
That's it.
And so that was my pinnacle best coaching experience, and everything from there, you're comparing.
Yes.
So even playing professionally over in Europe, it never felt like it really lifted to that level that we got in college in the States.
And also, if you have a coach, like, for example, Kenny McFadden, I used to absolutely love playing for him.
You go to war for them.
You're going to go to war for them.
Go to battle.
Absolutely, at all costs.
Yeah.
You know, and if you're in the WNBA and the person or the coach, like, they're not like that, it's going to be hard for you, isn't
We
it?
had talent. We had awesome talent.
Did you?
But she just didn't. She just couldn't bring it together. And couldn't get the systems running.
So shit, isn't it?
Yeah, it was a real shame. But
Yeah.
But I remember. But you talk about coaches and the influence, and how athletes always get criticized for having a bad game, or especially when the example I'm thinking about is the men's sevens team, rugby sevens team in Rio.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a couple games where they just didn't look like they had legs.
Yeah.
They were exhausted. They were this, they were that. And I remember people around the rugby offices going, what's wrong with them? They just need to suck it up, harden up. How could you not get motivated by being on the biggest stage in the world? I remember my worst possible game was my last game for New Zealand, because I was just spent. You're just physically spent.
Yeah.
And there was a few differences in the in the coaching style there as well.
Yeah.
And we'd actually done quite well, but that last game, I just had nothing physically, emotionally, and it just could not translate it physically. And there's nothing you can do.
No, you can't.
Yeah, you can't make your legs not feel like lead.
Exactly.
When they feel like
For
lead.
sure.
Yeah. So it's a real misconception around athletes, I think. It's not just about having heart.
Yeah, no. And unless you're an athlete, you don't think you sort of understand that.
Yeah. So that's probably the biggest difference. Yeah, I think also the professional game in Europe almost felt easy in respect of what you needed to fit into a day, because you're doing all of that and studying and trying to graduate and do a degree.
Yeah.
When you're in college, it's the best setup for understanding how to prioritize, manage your time, look after yourself, etc., etc. And still, you're a 20-year-old going out, doing things that social media would ping you on now.
Yeah, exactly.
And you have no idea what I did back then.
Yeah. I know, bloody hell. You spoke about playing for New Zealand. So, I mean, playing for your country is a huge, huge achievement. It's an honour, I think. I never played for the Tall Blacks, but I played age groups and stuff, and even getting given that New Zealand jersey, it's crazy. How old were you when you first played for New Zealand?
I got selected for the under-20s when I was 15, and that was my first New Zealand experience, and that was before I went to the States. And this is the crazy thing, back then, the coach said, if you go to the States, you'll never play for New Zealand again, because they thought that by selecting me for an under-20s team for a tour to Australia meant that they owned you and they could keep you in New Zealand, albeit, understanding, well, what's your development pathway here versus there. And so obviously there's a lot better understanding of the opportunities now for young athletes. But that was the first time I represented New Zealand. But then when the first time I represented Tall Ferns was in 1995, so that tour to Australia I told you about. So, and that wasn't really on the cards either, because I just came home from university. I came home from college, and the team got in touch. Carl Dicker was the coach at the time, and said, "Come along to trials." And
Carl Dicker, was that Mark's
dad?
Dad.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah. So Sparky's dad.
Sparky's dad. Bloody hell.
And then ended up, touring Australia, which was pretty awesome. So I debuted with Donna Lofhagen.
Oh, yeah. All right. Awesome.
We were roomies.
That's awesome.
As she was known back then, Donna Lofhagen. So we were roomies, and then we played, pretty much all the way through. Yeah. She did a couple more years on the end than I did.
Yeah.
But so that was that first time. And, to your point around how special it is, it even hit then, and I wasn't intending to even play for New Zealand. I didn't even know it was an opportunity at that particular time.
Yeah.
And when I did, the it's not lost on you how special it is.
Yes.
And even then, in those days, all we got was a singlet, and and then it was your letter came. Please make sure you bring
blah blah blah.
Including match shorts, like shorts to play in.
And you're representing your country. Blows my mind.
So we have come a long way. Yeah. When we talk about equality and opportunity, we have come a long way, which is awesome. But we just got to keep striving.
We've got to keep going for sure.
Yeah.
And because you went to the Olympics twice, right?
Yes.
2000 Sydney, 2004 in
Athens. Yeah, 100 years to the celebration of 100 years since the first modern Olympiad that was held in 1904.
Oh,
in
interesting.
Athens. Yeah.
True. And how did going to the Olympics? That's like another tick that you've got next to your name. Bloody hell! How was that experience?
Yeah, it was. I think talk about lucky enough to being able to compare, because Sydney was very much about. It did feel like that 5-year journey, and once you got there, that was the achievement.
Yes.
What happened next hadn't really been well thought through or planned out, and that's, I think, individually as athletes, but also to the support structure around you. It just didn't exist. So we got there, and that was the achievement, and we were tourists, more or less, with a few games thrown in. Fast forward 4 years, we also didn't have the expectations that we'd make the Athens Olympics, the same qualification. So we would have had to beat Australia to qualify. However, in 2002, Australia won the World Championship. So there's two automatic qualifications, one host nation and one the World Champs.
So you got that spot.
So we got that spot.
Shit.
So them beating the US, I think they were in Brazil for the tournament, which again would never have happened. I was in Indianapolis with I was working for And1 at the time.
Ah,
Yeah.
And1, that's right. We talk about that. Like I got a few And1 gears floating around.
I bet you did to Chillins.
Yeah. Oh,
We were talking about they're probably old enough to start bringing back some lifestyle
Fuck
kind
it.
of heritage.
absolutely.
throwback
Fuck the M1. Oh, fuck, I loved M1.
And1 mixtape.
I got all those as well. Fuck, that is so funny.
So I was out in Indianapolis with And1 and was standing in the box with David Crocker because we were sponsoring the Tall Blacks, and we also had Turkey and a few others, Lebanon of all places, and I was standing there with him while the women's World Cup was going on at the same time in Brazil.
Yes.
So we were getting updates.
Yeah.
And then David turned to me and said, because I'd retired, I was done, and he said, "We're going to Athens." I said, "No, we're not." I was like, "Are you serious?" He's like, "We're going to Athens. Australia have just won the World Cup."
That is
The World
crazy.
Championship.
And you're like,
And I was like,
yeah, I need to start
so that 2 years of doing nothing. How quickly can I get myself back into shape?
yeah.
As it turns out, about 12 months it took.
Fuck. It's crazy. Quick to forget though, right? Like how
Yeah.
much training and stuff you do.
Yeah.
Like I remember we used to train twice a day for probably 10 years, and then
Yeah, you stop.
now I go back play at ASB now. I'm like, whoa.
Blowing. It was the muscle, the fast twitch. You know, it was, you could do it, but everything tightened up.
And you're a step behind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
The muscle member of the shooting as well was crazy, I think.
yeah. So that was the when we found out we were going to make the Athens team. So and it was cool because everyone was in the same position. Most of the 2000 team had retired and gone on and done other things,
Yeah.
and the majority of us got back together because we were still only going to be 20, 29, 30 years old. We were an older team, but 4 years on, more mature, more experienced, and the second Olympics, we went in
Yes.
with a whole different mindset.
I bet.
Yeah.
And how was it mostly different than the first one? Obviously, you said you're like a Taurus in the first one, but what were one of the biggest differences you think?
Coach.
Coach. Yeah. You think the whole culture changed? Oh, no. I mean, it doesn't matter who the coach was. People know if you've got a bad coach, you're not going to do well. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, Carl Dickel's done a lot and given a lot to New Zealand basketball, or Basketball New Zealand. But, we had Tom Ma 4 years later, who I didn't personally have a great relationship with, but he could coach, there's no question.
Yeah.
And so we...
Everyone bought in, you think?
Eh?
Everyone bought in?
I think it's really hard to say. Really hard to say. He brought that Australian winning style and attitude.
Yeah.
But before he came on board, we had his assistant coach, Carrie Graff. And so we had her for a year. She ended up going to the WNBA, which is why she left us.
Oh.
So we all committed and got back on board because she was there.
Yeah.
And man, she was inspiring.
Yeah.
And so we were already kind of well on the way. And then she was pretty disappointed, but she moved on. So she left us sort of a few months out to go take the WNBA contract. But Tom Ma stepped in. So the foundations have been laid by her.
Yeah.
I think we were all in a different mindset. We were all had different belief in ourselves and our ability. And then he came in and kind of just put the hammer down.
Yeah.
So coach, I think the belief, and also we then by that stage, the core group of the team have been playing together for probably the better part of 6-7 years.
Sure. Yeah. So you knew each other like the back of your hand. Yeah.
Yeah. We were missing probably a few key positions,
Yeah.
but that, we did well. So we had a focus and a target to make it to the quarterfinals, which we did. And the only way we were going to do that, our pool was USA.
Of course it was. Eh?
China, Korea, and Spain, and Czech Republic. Yeah,
Like China must have been all right.
Well, China were 8th in the world, and we beat them. And Korea was up there as well.
Yeah.
And because they were. Did they make it to the Final Four? And they did well in Sydney, but we beat them. So we targeted the two Asian nations, and that was Tom. It's like, well, this is the way that they play. This is the only team that we can compete with and match in a way that we can sort of diffuse what they do. Americans, by the by, Spain and Czech, two best teams in Europe.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're like mini Australians.
Yeah,
so,
for sure.
So so that was us, and we we beat China at the buzzer when I hit a buzzer beater.
You did?
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
You probably can Google it, look it up.
I will. I'll chuck it in the link. I will. Fuck, that's amazing. Take us
It
through it.
actually
What was
probably
it?
isn't even on there because it was well before the days of YouTube.
Take us through it then. What happened?
So we were up by 3, and our little point guard took it through the middle, and in 5 games prior to that, every time she took it to the middle, she wasn't dishing. So I ran back to go safety, and she decides to dish it.
Oh, no.
And intercept. Chinese player dribbles up the court. I'm hoofing it back to guard basket.
Yeah, she
and then
splashes
realise we're 3 down. The 3 down. She pulls up. I dash forward, lean. She shoots it. Swish in my face. 4 seconds on the clock, I think it was. Timeout. The play was to get the ball into point guard's hands, and she just dribbles up and takes a shot. There's no way we're going to beat them in overtime because we were all in foul trouble.
Yeah.
We were spent, etc. Everyone on the court was over 6 foot. Our point guard was about 5'5", 5'6". So I sort of had a side conversation with Kirsten Daly, who was our assistant coach, and she was our point guard. And she's ex-coach of
Hawke's Bay?
Hawke's Bay.
Yeah.
Yep. So she was a tall fern. She was our point guard in Sydney. I had a side conversation with her because I got reamed out because of the whole situation of which I thought was a little unfair.
Yeah.
And
fucking A.
so I said to Kirsten, I was like, they're going to double team her.
Yeah.
And she's like, yes, I know. So just go get the ball.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
So they double teamed her. I went and got the ball at halfway and then
Bang.
did it. Boom. Yeah.
How good.
On the buzzer.
That is so good.
And then all of a sudden Tom was like, yeah, it's just how I drew it.
Yeah, that's right.
just how I drew it up.
That's how it always is, eh? Exactly how I drew it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, coach. Oh my God. How was the Olympics as a whole though? I mean, you hear some shit about the Olympics. How was it?
It feels a bit greedy saying that you've been to 1, let alone 2,
Yeah.
and then to be able to compare what was cool there. Sydney was, I think, hands down, probably before London. People that are in administration at the Olympics say that Sydney was the benchmark. You know, they set the bar for how you ran an Olympic Games, the organisation, the connection, the vibe of it all was really friendly, accessible, safe. Connected, and so it really felt like a really amazing Olympic experience.
Yeah.
Athens was much more disjointed and organisationally pretty rough around the edges.
Yes.
They were struggling to get prepared and be ready to go. They got there in the end, but what was so special about that was you're in Greece.
Yeah, absolutely.
So they knew they had a little bit of leeway.
Yeah,
because you're in Greece.
Exactly, so much history there. Bloody hell.
So much history. But equally, we went in to not be tourists. So we had a strategy around how we wanted to go in, how we wanted to prepare. Our opening game was USA, and so that was the day 1 of competition. So the day before was opening ceremony. In Sydney, we didn't go to we went to the opening ceremony for basically the march in, and then we left because we had a game the next day. But it was a game we were going to lose. And so we talked about it a lot and said, we need to be really smart about, why we're here, and the experience is a big part of it. And it's also just get it out and done. So we said, we're playing USA the next day. It's a write-off. So why not let us do the opening ceremony and do it properly and feel a part of it, because then we can feel like we've had that real amazing Olympic experience, and then we've parked that and we move forward and play the games. Like in Sydney, we're like, well, we're never going to win that game, but we feel like we've missed out.
Yeah.
So it was a lot. It was a lot more opportunity to talk about what that meant and to have strategies around what was important and what was realistic.
Yes.
And that was cool because we had a really good strategy around opening ceremony. It's like, we've got to get some airtime. Beatrice is our flag bearer. If we hug her, we're going to totally get on camera because she's a big unit, they're gonna see Beatrice and she's
shot putter,
Yeah.
Famuina.
Yeah. And it was the first year that the Olympic Committee presented the, I can't remember the Māori word for it, but the cloak, the beautiful cloak that the flag bearers wear now. So she got presented with that the night before when they announced her as the flag bearer. She's dressed and she's got the flag, and we're like starting to hustle and get to the front. And then the Tall Blacks figure out what we're doing, and they try to bust our groove.
Oh
like,
my God! Yeah, get out!
Get out of it, man! You're 7 foot.
Yeah.
You're already seen anyway.
Yeah, give us one opportunity.
Give us some space.
Bloody hell.
We did get quite a bit of airtime.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and then
So it's worth it.
And then we were ready to play.
Yeah. That's awesome. So obviously Olympics was a great experience for you. You went twice. And since your basketball career and stuff, because I know you've been with NZRU for a little bit, and now you've just moved.
Jumped. Yeah.
So what are you doing now?
Yeah. I work for a creative agency and design studio in Wellington.
Nice.
Yeah,
And you're enjoying that?
I am. It's taken a bit to get used to the agency side.
Yeah.
So I've always worked sports side. First for And1 Adidas.
Yes.
More brand, sports marketing.
Yeah.
A little bit of product marketing, that kind of thing. And then I went from there to New Zealand Rugby and spent best part of a decade managing those
guys.
I'm picking my words very
Fuck, that would
carefully.
have been amazing.
It was cool because I knew nothing about rugby, and leaving New Zealand as a 16-year-old. 18 years later, I come back and I'm in rugby, and that whole time, and you may be the same. You play a minority sport in New Zealand, you're a bit dismissive of the big guys, or resentful for all the attention, funding,
Yeah.
And
it's still happening, by the way.
Yeah, I never got into rugby. I never really followed it. I never supported it until I actually started working for Adidas. So I worked for the German clothing company and found. And connected with rugby, and because
great.
of the sponsorship.
Yeah.
So I was basketball sports marketing at Adidas, and so nothing to do with rugby. But because you're a Kiwi and there's not many of us over there, we would always get invited to the rugby things and the rugby do's.
Yeah.
And I used to work with the NBA relationship was signed the year I started at Adidas.
Oh.
So timing.
Fucking timing.
Yeah, I started in May of 2005 as an international sports marketing manager for Adidas basketball, and by July Adidas was the official licensing partner of the NBA. So my job remit from within 3 months had just completely blown out of the water, which was awesome because I get connected and spent 4 years working with the NBA. So I've got Adam Silver on my speed dial.
That's fucking crazy. Adam Silver is the commissioner of the NBA.
He was my reference for the job at New Zealand Rugby.
What the fuck? That is ridiculous.
And he was just
no
one called me.
What?
Yeah, I know.
What the hell?
And the hiring HR manager was a basketball fan, and he thought I was full of shit. So, and he was too afraid to call him.
Dial the number, bro. Dial the number.
You could have spoken to Adam Silver.
Oh my God. People that don't know who he is, he's the commissioner. So he's the one that says, in the first NBA pick, there's blah, blah. So he's a pretty big deal.
He is. He's and it was the days of David Stern. So we used to go to basketball events, and David would always leave, or the commissioner, sorry, I should say. He would always leave a seat next to him free, and his person was over here, and he would have a roving seat, and he would bring people in to sit with him for 10 minutes and then bugger off.
Yeah.
I would always get an invite to go sit with David for a few minutes. I think it was just the fact that I was so different. I was in this basketball sports marketing world in Europe, crossing into the US. No other women in that space.
And a Kiwi, I guess,
as
well.
Yeah, and one that played in the WNBA.
Yeah.
So it gave me immediate kudos with that crew.
Sure.
So I sort of advised on the first WNBA uniforms as well that Adidas did.
Yeah.
So we sort of worked on the silhouette and created.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Shit.
So as I said, that was pretty cool. And but David was always, the commissioner, was always.
You can call him David.
I used to call him Davo.
I'll call him Davo. Why not? I used to call him it as well. Fucking Davo, how are you, mate?
And all those people are like.
I'm like that as well. Fucking Davo.
Yeah. But he was always very the dignitary, so he didn't have much scope. But Adam, as the deputy commissioner at the time, was just he was the people person, and he was always connecting, and the amount of nightclubs at 4:00 in the morning drinking Red Bulls and vodka with Adam Silver that I could name. Was
That
just
is
awesome.
amazing.
And he is the way he's administrating the league. It's so refreshing to see, because he is that he was always that person. It's a lot more about people. He respected players. And he had a really good relationship, and he's sort of taken it into that commissioner role. Where there's often, a lot of time it's really divisive.
Yeah.
But he's one of those people that can bridge the gap between the business and the
He's
the
done so
performance,
well.
professional game. Yeah, I think in that respect, coming sort of full circle back to rugby, is how I think I liked to try to see myself in that role, was being a former athlete, and not that I ever played or had to do what the All Blacks and the Black Ferns have to do day in, day out, because it's your profession, and you're so they get 4 weeks off a year, which is just madness playing a game like that. But it is a business as well, and that intersect it can be really divisive at times.
Definitely.
And so being a former athlete, but working on the commercial side was, trying to navigate that and build those relationships and trust that to hopefully get the best outcome for both.
Exactly. And not many people, I guess, in that role, even in that position, wouldn't understand because you've done both sides, you know what I mean? And you can understand it from both sides of the perspective.
Yeah.
So that's amazing. So I'll kick myself in the face if I don't talk about this, because there is a massive gap within gender, especially in New Zealand, and even the NBA and WNBA. If you compare pay, if you just everything. What are your thoughts on the way that the WNBA players only get this like say $100,000, and then LeBron's getting this amount, coming from the league? What are your thoughts on it?
Well, 25 years ago, when the players' salaries were set, it made a lot of sense to a lot of people, because it was an unproven entity. It was an unproven product. So they had the backing of the product in the respect of the NBA, the product of the brand.
Yeah.
But was this going to be successful? Well, 25 years on, it's showing that it is. It is successful. It has a fan base.
Absolutely.
And it's commercially viable. I had no idea until just recently that league salaries haven't increased at the same level of even inflation in 25 years.
Yeah.
That's just madness.
I know.
Equally, I kind of go, I know it's fantastic when you get the male advocates, and I can't speak more highly of all male advocates for promoting and propping up and recognising women's sport. But I'd love to say to LeBron and those guys, just shave like 0.0001% off your salary.
I was literally about to say that.
And see what that could potentially do. So love the fact that they are speaking up, but and it's not charity, and maybe that's why. And then we wouldn't want to accept charity, but it is interesting when you're saying the disparity. But disparity is because you guys are earning so much money.
And I think you're right though. It only takes one person like a LeBron. I mean, I feel like he would have done it though. If he could have, I don't know.
Or it should be done through the players.
For sure.
The players' union.
Being like, okay, I'm going to give for this, $100 million contract for the next 2 years. I'm going to give maybe 3 of my mentions away. It's just like, I'm going to give 1% to, this organization. And then if, half the players on the team do it, it's fixed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
But then also on the other side of that, I think there's an unequal view of, that people don't want to watch female sport, because I think that's not true.
Well, it's a perpetuating cycle, isn't it?
Yeah.
They don't want to watch because it's not there to watch, and something's got to give.
Yeah.
So can't just keep saying it's chicken and egg forever. And it has been proven that when sport is visible, there's a lot higher engagement.
Yeah.
And that engagement isn't going to be necessarily at the levels that we compare the men's NBA or the All Blacks or other men's sport that are steeped in tradition, history and time.
Yeah.
But give us that opportunity, to be visible and show what we can do. And I think you're right. There are more people out there that would say, I'd watch it if I've had access to it.
Exactly.
And that's not, that's not saying that you get to sit down and watch every game from 80-minute games. Like, you don't engage with men's sport like that anymore.
Oh, exactly.
We've got different ways to engage. So, there is an onus on something to change in respect to the visibility, to give the platform for that for these athletes to be seen, and on the back of that then becomes the opportunity to commercialise them because they're seen and they're more visible and
And also I think because it gets to the point where like if I'm a female and I'm growing up in New Zealand and I know I'm not going to get paid well doing this, I'm just not going to do it. You know what I mean? And in the States, you know, as a basketball player, or even in New Zealand, there's an avenue to earn a lot of money, so I can do that. But it's just going to, I think it's just upsetting because even for New Zealand, you see so many good players, females, and it's just they don't carry on doing it. You know, it's just so frustrating.
Yeah.
So as you say, if there's, you know, a few people in the league that are just like, you know what, I'm going to give 5% of my salary away to this year to whoever it is or however they do it. Yeah. But you're right, it has to come from the Players Association.
Yeah, somehow being able to figure out what that funding opportunity or role is. But equally, you know, I don't have the commercial books open to me, but the league itself is a commercially viable, you know, entity.
Of course.
They've been running for 25 years.
Exactly.
They have huge fan bases. They sell, you know, a lot of tickets.
They do.
They sell merchandise.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
So where is that increase in support going through to the players and their salaries?
Yeah, I think I saw Sue Bird's salary. It might have been, I think it was $150K or something. And she has got 5 championships, 5 MVPs or something ridiculous, and it's just like, and the salary, like I think it was comparing to Steph Curry's, and it was like Sue Bird's is like this, and then Steph Curry's is like, you know what I mean? It's just so bullshit.
Yeah, no, it is interesting. I mean, I think the other part in what women in sport particularly want to be known for now is that, you know, the effort is the same. So we're not saying you know we need to be there equal partners right now. I don't believe in equality. I believe in fairness. Yeah. And you know, to even 100% disrespect what the women put into their sport at their level compared to men is really that attitude needs to change, and that shit that happened in the NCAA.
Yeah.
The hell. It's actually quite laughable that in 2021 that could be seen as okay, that got past however many people that needed to sign off on everything that was going on with the final the Sweet 16 or the big dance, and thought that was okay and get away with it.
You're talking about the photos, right?
Yeah, the gym setup for the
so
for
just
the women.
For people that who are listening, there's like the photos came out of the NCAA.
That player was brilliant.
Yeah.
Don't know what her name is.
Yeah.
Was outstanding.
It was a photo of the females sort of gym and stuff, and I'm not being funny, it looked like, I mean...
It was that triangle weight rack.
Yes.
With the 1.5s and the 3s.
And it was just straight disrespect, whereas the men's had basically a whole NBA set up.
Looked like Les Mills' 4th floor.
Exactly. So yeah, you're right. It is. There's only one way to put it, and it's just disrespectful. And I don't know. And it got changed immediately because someone recognised that wasn't okay. But how it even got to that point. Oh my God.
So that's the stuff that you just go, well, that, you know, to raise awareness, and that the outcry after that, you know, probably did more for the advancement or the understanding that, you know, something needs to change, and women, these female athletes need to be treated equally on the respect level of what they put into their sport, equal to the men. I think pay is another one that's tricky, but I'm not saying it's equal, but there's got to be some advancements to keep the opportunities for women in sport to keep going.
Oh, exactly. Oh, I should have really brought the stats of the highest paid player in the NBA and the highest paid player in WNBA. It's fucking ridiculous. Pardon my French. Another question I wanted to ask you, because I know time's ticking on. What are your thoughts on basketball New Zealand as a whole? I mean, I've got my certain thoughts about what should be happening, and I mean, it's easy for me to say from the outside, but from your point of view, I guess being in it and seeing it for, you know, a few years, what are your thoughts on the way basketball New Zealand's going?
It's a very good question, and I'll preface it by saying when I came home from my 18 years abroad, I spent 10 years in the rugby halls, and I purposefully focused on rugby because I was the outsider newcomer and sort of my fledgling career, and I didn't have any involvement in basketball. And it wasn't until I was starting to think about life after rugby, that I wanted to get back involved in basketball, what I could do to support at a grassroots level, equally how influential I could be in a governance level. So that's where I sort of started looking and getting back involved in basketball. But to be fair, I probably am still quite green in respect of what the Basketball New Zealand landscape is actually faced with right now, how it's structured and everything like that. My experience is going back 20 years as a player.
Yeah.
I think probably the one observation from in that respect is, in a sense, other than I think there's the professionalism of the high performance environment has increased exponentially, and the opportunities and the amount of programming and support, is night and day, but there's still room for improvement, no question.
Yeah.
So it's high performance. From a community level, we all know the stats, and it's not no one would be surprised when you hear that basketball's the fastest growing sport, and it's the desired sport around young people, and it's growing in high school, etc. So there is an opportunity for better alignment, and an opportunity to change. I think there's been a lot of focus that's been put into the strength and adapt opportunity that's been run through Sport New Zealand to gain extra funding. But the funding was one side, but the other part to that was an opportunity for a funded program for Basketball New Zealand to run basically an open forum and say to everybody that's involved in the game, whether it's associations, whether it's private, independent providers, whether it's high performance, whether it's community, what can we do better? Yeah. And there was a really good uptake of that conversation. So that's great, and it's been written into a really, really succinct, nice plan.
Awesome.
The key though, and that's our responsibility, is that bringing that plan to life. Execution. Managing expectations where things can be affected quickly or maybe going in a different path. But the opportunity that we face now is actually to deliver on some of that.
Yeah. I just think with Basketball New Zealand, I don't know what it is. I don't know the ins and outs, so I can't speak too much about it. But the funding just always gets me, and how these players aren't getting paid enough. And I always think Basketball New Zealand should be treated like a startup. They should be going to investors and saying, this is a potential of what it could be. And, we should do this, this, and this to get it to here. Like, basically treat it as a startup to try to get money. And then, because I know all the boys playing in the league, and I know how much they're getting paid. And I just think it's so hard, for them to do that. And then in the off season, try and make the breakers. And if they don't make the breakers, do they train for the NBL next year? Because I know what they're getting paid, and it's not a good amount of money, Yeah. So, I don't know. I just feel like there needs to be some funding or something that needs to happen to make Basketball New Zealand a bit more.
It's a tricky one in respect of all sort of semi-professional sports, isn't it? That their journeys are probably not too dissimilar from the Wellington Lions guys. And that's rugby.
But I guess there's sorry to cut you off. The Lions, there's hurricanes, and then there's there's stuff like that, and I guess it's
pathway.
In New Zealand, there's not really that. But as you say, it's semi-professional sport. It's hard to sort of provide that funding.
But I think and this has been my observation this year with particularly just talking about the men and the Sales NBL. I haven't been to a Saints game in 10 years. And I haven't engaged with a lot of NBL basketball on TV in the last 10 years because it wasn't available and wasn't really interested. And every time I turned it on, it didn't look like the level was very high. I've been asked to do a bit of commentary this year, which I've been having a bit of fun with.
That's awesome.
And I've been to 3 Saints games, and I'm hooked. And I'm hooked for a lot of different reasons. The atmosphere, the professional delivery of the game. The fact that that every single game is broadcast, so that means that I can get really good content from even the other games that I'm not watching or I'm not engaging with it on TV for the whole 40 minutes. So I feel really connected with the league and the results, and I'm looking for what's happening. And the standard has been this is me not having too much experience. I just think whether or not it's coincidental or by chance, the fact that there's a lot of Wellington players playing for the Saints this year.
Oh, that's amazing. It's what actually makes my heart pump, because when I played, it was never really like that.
Bringing it was more that sort of trying to make that professional game in a semi-professional environment.
That's exactly it. And I mean, I get it for sure to win, but people like myself,
they're winning now still.
Oh, exactly.
so you can.
Yeah, exactly. People like when
Nurture
we were
talent.
coming out of high school, we won back-to-back championships for Wellington. We had the best team, we had the best players, but every other city like Palmy, Hawke's Bay, all the high school players would go play for them. But for us, we're the best team in the country. We could never make the Saints.
Get in. Yeah.
It was hard. But I get it. I mean, you get the Lindsay Tates, you get Casey Franks, Dylan Bouchers, and you just pay them fuckloads. They come down and they play and you win.
Yeah.
But it's just hard for grassroots. So when you say that, it's really
and I
it's
think
awesome.
that there's been so many people that have commented on that, and particularly from a fan's perspective.
Yeah.
And it's been said a lot on commentary that having the homegrown talent is making a really big difference, and it's great to see that they're actually performing and getting some court time and doing well.
And that's probably why the atmosphere is so good because the community is coming around now rather than
and
from out of
they're only
town.
going to be here for 2-3 months, and then they're going to
exactly
head off. And I think the American imports as a whole seem to be much more integrated into the team and the community rather than just there's a period of time there where you kind of had the heyday of the the Kerry Wagners and the Kenny McFaddens and Kenny Stones, and then there's a spate of Americans that were kind of coming in and just playing and not really giving much else back. And it seems to be that there might be a little bit more recruiting more carefully to get talent and good people. Yeah,
but I also think Wellington, to go back to your fact about how professional it is and the atmosphere, I think Wellington's, I don't know, I haven't been, because when I played 5 years ago, when we went to every other city, they weren't even half compared to how the Saints put it on. Have you been to any other games other than the Wellington games?
No, I'm going down to Christchurch in a couple of weeks to do a Rams game.
Well, let me know how that goes.
Yeah, I will.
Compared to the Wellington. Because I think Wellington's, I don't know what it is, the stadium. Good stadium. Or,
just the atmosphere, dropping the lights, getting the music going, like good music through the game.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. All right, I know you've got stuff to do, so what we do on the podcast is we usually, I give you a question, so you can sit with anyone at a table, you can have dinner with them, anyone, dead or alive, someone who might have inspired you, someone who you thought, I wish I could sit down and have a chat with them. It doesn't matter who it is, but it can't be your partner, because I usually ask people and they're like, oh, my partner, and I'm just like, come on, you see them every night, I'm sure they're inspirational, but just for this time, so who would you sit down with?
Maxi Jazz from Faithless.
Oh, shit. Fuck, I was not expecting that. Fuck it out. All right, awesome.
Yeah.
And
come out of retirement.
Yeah. So you're having a 3-course meal. So you got to pick a starter, a main, and a dessert, and also a location. So where would you have dinner?
In location-wise?
Yes. It could be anywhere.
Oh, wow. Okay. Amsterdam.
Why Amsterdam?
Lived there for a couple of years.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
It's cool. Something bikers, eh?
Best time of my life.
Oh, yeah. That's awesome. What would the starter be?
Buffalo mozzarella and basil and tomato. Yeah. Proper Italian.
Proper?
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. What would your main be?
It would be a seared salmon steak.
Yum.
Yeah, with green beans, lots of butter.
Oh.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And your dessert?
Like a really big New York cheesecake, I was like cheesesteak.
Cheesesteak. Cheesecake. Yeah, fuck yeah.
Like
absolutely.
With a bit of strawberry drizzled on with a really
Yum.
high crust.
No, that's awesome. Fucking hell.
That's me.
That's a pretty good lineup.
With Maxi Jazz.
What do you know that, Hayden? That was pretty good, eh? Fucking hell. People usually like garlic bread. I'm like, come on, bro. Oh my God. Hey, I know we've been going for a while, so I'll leave you to it. But personally, I just want to say I was inspired by your story. Being totally honest, open and honest. And as I say earlier on, I was pissed off how no one knows about you. I mean, you're really humble, and even when you talk about your stories, you sort of go a bit quiet. But I'm like, you need to be yelling that to the fucking, honestly, because what you've done is most than anyone will ever do in 20 lifetimes. So, thank you so much for coming on, and I hope this can inspire, another female or whoever it is to follow their dreams, because, you talk about luck and you talk about timing, but you must have been a fucking good basketball player.
That was
and
decent.
You know what I mean? So thanks again for coming on.
Joe.
And hopefully you can go speak at some other places and inspire some other people, because I was just so thankful I went to that talk, because I was like, this is honestly, it's one of those times, lucky, it's right place, right time. And now I'm just honestly totally inspired. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. No, thanks for having me on. I'm glad that we managed to make it happen.
I know. Awesome.
And good luck in Auckland.
Thank you so much. Alrighty.
If you know.
Yeah.
You know.
You know. Thank you.